Did you ever get close to do anything with Hove?
Nah, I never. I don't even think I met him.
Crazy. That's crazy. You would think. For you, because you've been doing a lot of full collab albums, I think back to like one of the first producer MC albums to me that I kind of just heralded like very high in my life was the first album you did with the Jizza album. Was it Masterminds?
Oh, Grandmasters.
Grandmasters, yeah. Crazy body of work, but you've still done like you've done such a good job of like doing these like fully, cohesive collaborative albums with other artists. I feel like a lot of people are kind of doing that now as well.
100%. They wasn't on it like that. They wasn't on it.
But you're kind of, to me, like you're the first guy who really kind of did that.
Yeah, they're doing Versus records. You
Yeah.
know, Jizza, Asia, Ill Bill we did back in like, 2003, I think it was, something like that, 04. Yeah, me and Jizza always clicked, man. From the first day we got in the lab, we always clicked, man. And it was just, everything was smooth and easy. And, we just kept communicating all through the times, and just kept in touch. And then we got together and did Grandmasters. But it was a weird time because at that time it was right after Napster and the whole ass fell out the music industry. We went from selling underground records, 250,000 records, to selling fucking 5,000 records. So it was before YouTube. It was before Spotify. It was before Apple Music.
Yeah.
And then the music, the records weren't selling. So there was like this 3 or 4 year period where we was like, what the fuck's going on, bro?
How do we monetize this?
Nobody knew what was going on.
Yeah.
It was a weird ass time, you know what I mean? So all I know is you just stay consistent and just keep going. That's the one thing about my crew, man. From me, Al, Cartoon, Estevan, Cypress, we just never stopped.
Yeah.
You just never stopped through it all.
I was going to ask you, what is something that because you're obviously, like you said, there was that point in time where you've been a part of every, for the most part, era of hip hop in terms of like the way the business is, right? Like you guys first came on when SoundScan hit. Now fast forward.
80s. My first group, you got to remember, was 783.
I didn't know that.
1988. Like my first gold record was Colors. 783, Madman World in the movie Colors. So
wow.
I signed with 783 in 88, and we was signed to Rush Management.
Shout out to Russell, yeah.
And we're doing stadium tours.
Crazy.
We're opening up for Salt and Pepper, opening up for Hammer, opening up for Tony.
You opened up for MC Hammer?
Yeah, we was on the tour with Hammer, Tony, and Today.
What's the MC Hammer tour like back then?
Stadiums, crazy as fuck.
But, like, I don't think people understand. Like, he was like a fucking like pop star for real.
Super,
I have an MC Hammer Barbie doll.
I'm talking.
It's right there.
I'm
you see my MC Hammer Barbie sitting down?
Yeah, I'm talking. 25,000 people a night and it's doing stadiums, man. And then Salt and Pepper, Kwame was on the tour.
Wow.
So just being young, and then I'd come back to Cyprus, and like I'm 18, 19, and I was like, yo, figuring this music shit out, fellas. You know what I mean? So 783 really taught me about the music business, and I just brought all that fucking knowledge back to Cyprus because there was no Google or
right.
No, even to learn the DJ, I had to go to the club and watch the DJ and fucking listen to the radio. That's how I learned. There was no Scratch Academy or no shit.
Right. None of that. You just had to really just learn on the job.
Just watch and try
and
to
learn.
remember and figure it out.
I always heard MC like everyone always says Hammer's like a real ass dude for real. Like he's certified. Like but you also hear like he always had like a big entourage with him.
Oh, he had a big ass entourage.
Yeah.
Like you'd come on the stage with your little hype man and maybe one little dancer, and he'd come out with like 16 dancers.
Crazy.
You know what I mean? And a hype man that was like Little John back then.
Yeah.
Like screaming and shit, talking shit. So yeah, that was crazy, man. It was a good experience to have those tours, And then with Cypress, like I already knew what's gonna happen. I was like, the success is waiting for us in the future. We just got to get to it, fellas.
I was gonna say for you though, what are the things that you could give advice to somebody who's an independent artist, maybe has like a modest following? How can they really monetize music now? Because I feel like it's not what it used to be. Streaming doesn't pay the greatest.
Well, you got to build a career, man. So I think you got to tour. You got to go do shows, man. Even if you're not getting paid, you go play in front of 9 people.
Yeah.
Always do underplays. The next time you play in front of 20. Next time you play in front of 35.
Yeah.
In 2 years, there'll be 150 people there.
Yeah.
So the energy of the shows, make sure you have your merch and you're doing your pop-ups and you're live on social media talking to your people, and then doing your streaming and be consistent. And I think all that shit together, you put that together and you stay consistent, you build a career. Some motherfuckers just want to like stream shit maybe they might get a show in New York, and then that's it.
Flash in a pan shit.
Or you might get a show, and then they get money there, but they don't want to go do shows in other cities because there's no bread. But I was like, you got to go plant the flag, bro.
You gotta build the fan base.
You got to go build it. You know?
I always tell people, like, just because you have a big song doesn't mean you have a big following.
It don't mean shit.
There's people who have platinum records that can't sell a fucking concert ticket.
Period.
Like,
and that's going to tell you what fans you really have, man. Is it like, are you actually getting streams because you have features? Mm-hmm. Or are you getting streams because you have fans that really love you? And then that's going to translate to those people will come out and
they'll support you. They'll buy the T-shirt.
All the way
they'll
across.
buy the hoodie. They'll buy the vinyl.
So a lot of that shit's it's a little pumped up. You know what I mean? When you got a lot of features on your records, because you'll see, you can't sell a hard ticket outside of. You can't even sell a hard ticket in your city. You can only get on shows with motherfuckers.
Mm-hmm. I was going to ask you. Tell me the story on how you and Alchemist met and how he became a part of the Soul Assassins.
I met Al when he was like 13. I had this manager, and they was like, "Hey, you want to make a lot of money?" And I was like, "Well, what are you talking about?" So we got this little rap group, 2 little white kids from Beverly Hills, and I was like, "Get that bullshit the fuck out of here."
The other dude was James Caan's son?
Yeah, right? I didn't meet him. I didn't see him. I was just like, the concept of that shit was like, were you trying to do like a crisscross?
Yeah, but a white crisscross.
Baby
like
House of Pain. I was like... So I think they ended up bringing him to Be Real, and Be Real worked with him. But then I met Al, and I was like, "Oh, this kid's cool as fuck. He reminds me of me, like just tenacious fucking worker, and just the love and the fucking and smart and just work and just on point." I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna give this kid access and let him be around, and then like, I'm gonna just cut all this shit you have to go through and just put you right here. You with the biggest group in the world now, in the studio, going on tour." Hanging out, you know what I mean? And just like give him access. Because I knew all he needed to do is be around it. He's such a fucking smart kid and such a sponge. He'll figure it out. You know what I mean? Just give him access to the shit.
Was he always wanting to step away from rapping and just focus on producing?
When I met him, he didn't make beats yet.
Okay.
And then when he did, that first time, they weren't.
They weren't.
Of course. He was learning.
Yeah, he was learning. Yeah.
He was a real Premier fan, and it was just like, some C-level Premier like kid shit. And he was just, I'd be like, nah, that's not it, bro. But you knew, like, I always knew Al has that it thing, that special fucking thing. Like, he's just whatever Al decided he wanted to do, he was gonna be successful in it. You know what I mean? He's just that smart and that fucking that much of a hard worker, and that got that much focus. So, we just put him under my wing. It's like, he starts seeing how albums are made, how studio sessions are run, and the little tricks, the little behind the shit, going on tour with us, carrying the crates and shit, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You're on fucking big festival tours, you know what I mean, at fucking 15 years old. Leaving school.
Yeah, crazy. And then eventually, now he's Alchemist. Grammy nominated.
God, he's the illest in the game right now, man.
I agree, man. I was just saying, like, his last couple year run has been like, it's so crazy. Like, think about the stuff he's done with Boldy, with Freddie. Like, he's just been just relentless.
He hasn't done nothing different. He's been working this hard all these years. It just, it's just timing. It's the perfect storm. You know, it's like the way the music is, and the way what we like, the culture's growing, and then just the right artist at the right times with all the momentum he's built up over the years. You know what I'm saying?
I was going to ask you, your production process, how much has it changed over the years? Because back in the day, everybody would have their go-to equipment. Nowadays, like, I'll know guys who I never ever thought would touch like a digital platform, like, who will only be on Ableton or they'll only be on Pro Tools. Like, what is your process like?
It was the same for me, man. I was using the SP12. I moved over to the MPC, and then I wanted to do some electronic shit for fun. And I was like, how do you do this shit? And I can't do it on this shit. I got to learn this fucking computer. And I was the last motherfucker, bro, to fuck with the computer.
Like, you were hanging on to
I was hanging on a 2-inch everything.
Yeah.
And I was just like, fuck it. So I just took a year and just worked on some electronic music, and just took a year and just worked on the machine until I figured out, like, oh, I can get my sound out of this thing. Because it turned into a lot more sound designing and, getting into the fucking the effects.
Yeah, there's plugins for everything.
Yeah, and then not having to have a big studio and learn everything and fucking plugging everything in and just having it right there at my fingertips. I was like, actually, it started getting fun again for me, like, super fun again, And then my daughter got to a certain age where I was like, oh, I don't gotta fucking be there all the time. So it was like 6 years ago is when I was like, oh, it's about me again now. It's my time. Mm-hmm. Kids are raised, shit's all good. All right, y'all, I love everybody, but it's my time. I'm going to be greedy now. It's the most freest I've ever
I'm gonna
been.
go dive
you know
in,
what I mean?
dive right back in.
And so I think we've done like 34, 35 projects in the last 6 years.